Hello, YouTube fans and Facebook fans of DX Engineering. It is Friday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. It is 20 Zulu on May 24th, 2024. And this is the weekend special brought to you by DX Engineering. And today we have two very interesting subjects. The first one, we're going to talk about Hamvention 2024. And we're going to turn it over to the official spokesperson for Hamvention, Michael, W8CI.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be kind of quick because Tim's got a packed show here. And just quickly, Tim, congratulations on your CQ, what's that, the DX Hall of Fame, CQ Hall of Fame. Thank you for all you do, and congratulations on that. Anyway, I want to introduce Jim and say a few words about Jim Storms here, AB8YK. This is kind of ending up his time in general chair. We only allow a chair to be there for 2 years, and we certainly appreciate his leadership in those 2 years. But he's not really gone too far. He'll be assuming some of his other responsibilities, and now we will use him as a trusted advisor based on all his experience. So the exciting news that Jim is going to deliver is the attendance numbers, and we've worked very hard together trying to get everything done and counted up, counted in, and paid. And so with that, Jim, take it away.
Hi guys, Jim and everybody out there. We had a great.
Yeah, Michael, we can't hear Jim, so why don't you go ahead? The audio is really bad there.
Okay, can you hear us?
No.
Can you have?
No.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Why don't you go ahead? Let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim. Now, we can hear you now. Are you hearing me at all?
Now, the audio is really bad, guys.
All right. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, we are actually at the fairgrounds right now, and this is an untried place for us. But the official number, and Jim wanted to deliver it, 35,877. 35,877. That is a record-breaking attendance, and we're glad everybody came. Glad for all the vendors, and we're getting ready for next year already.
All right, Michael. And Jim, great job on being the chairman for 2023 and 2024. You did a tremendous job. 35,877 attended this year. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jim. And we'll see you next year. 73, guys. All right. And now we have another guest. It is Doug Grant, K1DG, and we're going to talk about Doug's trip to Dayton and all things Hamvention with Doug. And Doug, thanks very much for being on today. You know, from a contester's view, how was Dayton, and why did you go, and what were your expectations?
Well, thanks for having me, Tim. I go to Dayton pretty much every year, and for me, as a contester, I look forward to seeing what new radios are coming out, what new station accessories are being introduced, learning from the other guys, and walking the flea market, of course, trying to shake hands with all 35,877 guys that are there. That's really the biggest draw for me, is socializing with the old and new friends from around the world. Everywhere you go, whether it's the flea market, the exhibit area, or even the bar at the Hope Hotel, you see call letter badges that look like your contest log. Guys you talk to a few times a year. You finally get to meet them in person, shake their hands, get to find out a little bit more about them. And even though we're from all over the world, we come from a wide range of professions, experiences, ages, personal situations, worldviews, whatever. We all share a passion for this game of contesting, and all those differences can be set aside for a few days, and we can focus on the thing we all have in common and love.
No, that's really very cool. And of course, we talk about all sorts of different things on this show, all sorts of different sub hobbies that are inside the amateur radio hobby. Now, you attended a lot of different events. How did Contest University go? Did you have any takeaways?
Well, Contest University was, as usual, a terrific program. It was very strong with a lot of A lot of presentations on a lot of topics, starting with K5ZD's talk on playing the game fair, and ending all the way at the end with Rob Sherwood's very practical and excellent presentation on transceiver performance, what matters, what doesn't, and comparing existing transceivers on the market today. And of course, everything in the middle, from W3LPL's talks on antennas and propagation, W1VE talking about remote contesting, N6TV talking about how to hook up all these little boxes in your station. There were just a million different subjects on multiple tracks. It was great. I'm glad that we have the book to refer to. And of course, all these presentations are on the Contest University website, as I understand. And of course, none of that would make would work at all without the very hard work of Terry K at MNJ and Jason KC3UCJ and the rest of the crew behind the scenes kept the whole program running smoothly. It just went off without a hitch, and it was terrific.
So, Doug, a lot of times, whether I go to club meetings, do a club meeting on Zoom, even at work, we're frustrated by the fact that we feel like there's not many youth participating in amateur radio these days. What about youth in contesting? I mean, how's it going, and what's the buzz like?
I think it's going pretty well. Obviously, we'd like to see more, but at Contest Universities, when I had the chance to sit up in the front of the room or sit in the back and look around, in that sea of gray hair and bald heads, there were a bunch of young faces, and they were actively listening. They were taking notes on everything. One of the presentations was from a couple of youth presenters that I want to cite specifically. And they were YLs. I don't know if we can come up with a new term, YYLs or Y squared Ls, because they were young YLs. Katie, K-E8LQR, and Grace, K8LG, gave a talk about bringing youth into multi-op contesting, mostly speaking from their own personal experiences. And for me, it was one of the highlights. These kids just blew me away. They were poised, articulate, they're headed in the right direction. They understand what contesting is about. They had some great ideas on bringing kids into it. And we're going to see a lot from these kids as they move along. They're going places. I saw some of the past youth attendees still staying in the hobby, still playing contesting. It was good to see them. One thing that really stood out was we have this little event. We have actually run a contest during Contest University. We have a 5-minute eyeball QSO sprint contest, and everybody had a log sheet, and they had to run around the room making eyeball contacts with people there, using the sprint QSY rules. So they couldn't just stand in one place. And instead of changing frequency, they had to move to a different part of the room before their next QSOs. And when I tallied up the logs, out of the top 8 scores, 4 of them were youths, and not only were they youths, they were the YLs. That included Grace and Katie, who I mentioned, Katie's younger sister, Elise, KE8TYU, Violetta, KN2P, who used to be KM4ATT when she first came to Dayton. And they did terrific jobs, and they really showed up, all the old men in the room. They did great.
And, you play a really big part in things that go on at Hamvention, including chairing the contest forum. What were the highlights there?
Well, we had 4 presentations in the contest forum this year. Every year when I think about who I want to invite to speak, I look over kind of interesting operations that I think people could learn from. Last year, we had some presentations about some very big stations that were being built. I decided to shift gears this year, and one of the more interesting operations of the last year was in the ARRL 10-meter contest. A group of 4 guys, AG9A, KD4D, W9RE, and K2KW, went to the island of Anegada in the British Virgin Islands and set up some verticals on the beach, ran low power, and operated as VP2 VMM. They put up a really terrific score with a very simple setup. In fact, just before Dayton, they got the word that they had set a new low-power multi-op record, so that was very cool. We had Mark Haynes, M0DXR, gave an update on planning for the 2026 World Radio Sport Team Championship, which will be held in England. K2UA gave us a little humorous presentation. He did a spoof of the Antiques Roadshow program from PBS, and a few people, I think they were shills in the audience, brought some contesting artifacts from ancient history, and Russ would evaluate them and determine what their current value was. Turns out paper dupe sheets from back in the 70s have no value whatsoever. WB4 VVF AccuMemory memory keyers may have some collectible value depending on condition and so forth. The highlight, I think, was the panel discussion that we had. A few weeks ago, Kyle, AA0Z, did a video interview on W1DED's YouTube channel, and he pointed out some ideas where he thought contesting needed to change or improve. So I invited the director of the CQ Worldwide contest, K1AR, and the ARL contest manager, Paul N1SFE, and his boss, Bart W9JJ, to respond to some of Kyle's comments and also update us on what's happening in their respective contests. On the CQ side, there were some people who were concerned about the future of CQ's contest programs now that CQ has stopped publishing. And K1AR assured us that all is well. The WWROF has a station well in hand, and it'll be business as usual for the CQ contest. The only change is that the results can be completed and announced a few months earlier, since there is no editorial deadlines for the print magazine driving the schedule. One other note, N2NC has now been appointed director of the CQ VHF contest. So if you're into operating that event, or you're a VHF contester and have ideas about that, contact N2NC about them. The ARL contest program has been evolving. There are some new categories and some new rule changes. And it was good to have Paul and Bart there to get feedback from the audience on some of the recent changes, such as allowing self-spotting in all classes, some of the new overlay categories, such as limited antennas and so forth. There was some discussion, which was prompted by AA0Z's comments about the fact that it takes forever to get contest results out. Some people have noted that the CWTs happen every week and there's no log submission, no log checking, and the results are pretty much instantaneous. K1AR commented that the first round of log checking is pretty fast, and CQWW results could be available in a couple of weeks after the contest. But unfortunately, there are some entrants who don't know the rules, or know the rules and don't play by the rules, and it takes a lot of work to find out how to deal with all of that. So in the CQ world, it's important to really know who won the contest, as well as getting the order of finish lower down in the scores correct. And there's a lot of human intervention needed to get that happening. But as I said, without the print publication deadlines to worry about, things can move a lot faster going forward. Later that night at the contest dinner, it was great to see the new inductees to the Contest Hall of Fame, N2IC, PP5JR from Brazil, both of whom are excellent operators and station builders. They've also given back to the sport quite extensively. And there was also a posthumous induction of recent silent key Dick Ross, K2MGA, who was publisher of CQ Magazine for many years and a very strong supporter of contesting. PP5JR made one interesting comment. He said that the induction in the Contest Hall of Fame really touched his heart. And touching hearts is something he knows about because he's a cardiac surgeon and he literally touches hearts every day. So I thought that was pretty funny.
You know, Doug, based upon your observations of what went on during the weekend and leading up to the weekend, how is the sport of contesting doing? I mean, does anything concern you going forward?
Well, I think contesting overall is doing great at the moment. It helps that we're in the sunspot peak. Conditions are terrific on the high bands, and even guys with small stations can make a lot of contacts and have a lot of fun. So we're going to look back on this period as the good old days of contesting, I think. This weekend is the WPXCW contest, and I'm sure a lot of people will be having fun in that one. I went to a talk in the ARL forum on gamifying the amateur bands, which was a presentation on kind of a new kind of contest. It was described by the organizer as FT8 poker. I was intrigued by that. So I went to the talk, and if you want to check out frequencyfrenzy.live for details on it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole concept, but it does involve getting on the air and making QSO. So that's a good thing. I'd like to see these guys apply some of their energy to existing contests. They have a lot to offer. They're doing some terrific real-time stuff. And I'd like to see it get applied to some of the existing contest in the traditional formats. If I have a concern in contesting, it's that the technology bar is being raised faster than operator skills are improving. For example, getting a station together and automating everything from antenna switching to posting on the live scoreboard and everything else that's going on requires almost a degree in computer networking to get it right, unless you go to N6TV's talks and take a lot of notes. And now I see that AI, about which I know less than nothing, is being applied to voice synthesis to enable SO2R and 2B SIQ on phone contests, and there's some automated CW operating going on. My view of the goal of contesting is to develop and improve operator skill. That's what it's about. It's about what goes on between the ears and in the brain and make things happen. And I'd like to see a little more emphasis on that side of the game, especially for beginners. They don't need to spend all their time making sure all the boxes are clicked on the logging program to make everything happen correctly. And even after the years that I've spent doing contesting, I have a lot more fun running rates or outsmarting a pile up and getting through quickly than I do debugging all things like USB ports and all that stuff. I'd much rather do the operating than the computer setup.
Well, Doug, what's next for you in contesting? I mean, this is where, we want to know what do you think about the future here and what's going on in your own station?
Well, I'm actually calling in from my contest station up here in Maine on a small coastal island. And that's where I've been doing a lot of my operating the last 10 or 15 years. I have a lot of antenna work to do. We've had a lot of really miserable weather this winter, and I've a lot of changes I need to make. So I've got a lot of antenna work to do. I'm hoping to have everything ready for the Island on the Air contest, the IOTA contest, which is a lot of fun from a semi-rare island QTH, since we're a multiplier and count extra points. Later this summer, in August, we'll be holding a mini contest university session at the Northeast Ham Exposition in Marlborough, Massachusetts, which will also include the New England ARL convention. So for guys who've missed, who weren't able to get to the big contest university in Dayton, we'll have a mini version with a slightly reduced agenda, but it's still a full day, a wide range of contest-related topics from basic setups to operating tips to remote operating, station setup. And Rob, NC0B, is going to come out and do a reprise of his talk on transceiver performance. So all these guys are terrific speakers: K5ZD, K1RX, K1XM, K1AR, W1VE. They're all experts in their subject matter and terrific speakers. And I'm really looking forward to that thing this summer. And the rest of the summer will be just resting up and getting ready for the big contest in the fall.
That sounds great, Doug. Well, Doug, thanks so much for giving us a recap on Dayton and what's in store here later on this summer. I really appreciate you coming on.
Okay, good to see you. And we'll see you one of these days.
Sounds good. And thanks to all of you for watching. Until next time, 73 from DX Engineering.